we need people to understand a lot more about wheat foods and wheat food nutrition. And to do our work, we have targeted some key influencers, and one of them is personal trainers. Now, the reason we pick personal trainers is they end up having a tremendous reach. Personal trainers have clients who come to them, and that's a fairly large group of people. But what's most important is then the clients that go to the personal trainers share what the personal trainers are telling them and teaching them with all their friends and put it on their social media and share it with their families. It ends up being almost 50 million people a week hear what personal trainers are saying. So if we can educate personal trainers to speak about wheat foods and carbohydrates in the diet with more accuracy and move away from the fad diets, then we have 50 million people a week hearing a different story than they've been hearing. So we targeted personal trainers for that reason. And I'll show you what we've done, and I'll show you the success we've had in having that influencer group really approach things differently with new information. Another of our core targets are chefs who set the menus for major restaurant chains. These chefs are often featuring fad diet items on their menus because they believe that they need to attract customers by showing them that you can come to our restaurant and you can get a meal that brings you the diet that's popular today. And so we bring these chefs to the Culinary Institute of America and we educate them. And they work in the kitchen at the Culinary Institute. And again, we've had a great deal of success there that we'll discuss. Another one of our target audiences are registered dietitians. Registered dietitians reach a lot of people as well. They are nutrition professionals, so they had less misconceptions about wheat foods. They were less likely to be supportive of fad diets than personal trainers. However, we felt it was important to keep registered dietitians educated about wheat nutrition, and we wanted to be a resource for them. And so we continue to provide them with information. And in particular, modern wheat, as it's called here in the US in the media, has been blamed for a lot of nutritional problems. There's a belief that the wheat today is so different than it used to be, that in the process of breeding the wheat, things have happened to it that has made it less healthy, less nutritious. That's inaccurate. Our wheat breeders tell us that all of the genetics from the past are still very present in the wheat, and it's extremely important to them that it remain there, and they work hard to keep those genetics in the wheat for it to be successful. So we have to debunk these myths often. So let's take a quick overview of the actual programs that we do in order to accomplish our work. As I said, because of the pandemic, we were not able to go to the events that we would have gone to. Typically, with the work we do with personal trainers, as an example, we would have one of our expert speakers speak at one of their large conferences, and we would have a booth in their trade show where we would engage with them as they came into the show and talk to the exhibitors. And we reached a lot of folks one-on-one, talking to them in small groups individually. We couldn't do that beginning in March of 2020. Our strategy became, if we can't go to them in person, we need to get to them somehow. We need to keep educating them. We can't just sit still. So we started recording videos. And you can see on this bar graph that in April of 2020, we had 0 views of our videos because we never did this before. Well, the first week we put our videos out through social media by using our network that we had built with personal trainers, with dietitians, with chefs. We had 25,000 views in the first week of our videos, and that continued to grow. And each week we put out new videos. And recently we surpassed 9 million views of these videos. We're averaging about 200,000 views a week today. We record these videos to be short. They're shareable on our social media. You can find them all on YouTube. If you're interested in seeing them, go to YouTube and then search for the Wheat Foods Council, and you'll find them. We have over 100 today. They cover a variety of topics. We have our expert speakers. We have infographics. We have short little presentations. We have all kinds of things there that are interesting and unique. And we think the rotation of the topics and the way they're presented gives us a large part of the success that we've had. People are interested in what we have to say next, and they don't know what to expect because we've done different things. One of the examples is the gentleman you see here, Dr. Brett Carver. He is a wheat breeder from Oklahoma State University. He is one of the premier wheat breeders, certainly here in the US, and I would imagine one of the premier wheat breeders in the entire world. But Brett is a very engaging personality. He speaks in a way that really connects with people. And so we recorded 4 videos with Brett on different topics. Brett's 4 videos now have over 1 million views total. So of our 9 million video views, 1 million come from his 4 videos. And he really does cover some complex complex issues, things that are problematic in some cases for the wheat industry, like the modern wheat idea, like genetically modified wheat, which does not exist in the US. And so he really clarifies a lot of things, and people have been very interested in his videos. We've been doing videos with the chefs that we work with. These are chefs from the major restaurant chains and other important sources in our food industry. These are a little bit longer videos. They're kind of a sit-down chat. We learn about how these chefs first began to cook, what their interests were, and the conversations are quite interesting. We'll continue to do these videos. We've had enough success with them. People are interested in them. Again, our goal is to educate people. Our goal is that our key target influencer audiences who can help us reach millions and millions of people will know more because we've educated them. And as they know more, they put out better information to the people that they educate. So we educate the educators, and these videos have been a highly successful way to do that. And I would encourage all of you that video is a medium that works extremely well, and it's not expensive to use anymore. We began everyone using their mobile phone to record videos, and we still do a lot of that. That works very well. We also have hosted webinars, webinars targeting personal trainers. We have speakers who are leading experts in their field, much like the webinar you're on today with us. It's promoted by email to let people know there will be a webinar, who will be speaking, what the topic will be. People sign up to participate. We also record them. We offer them the link to watch the recorded video for a good while afterwards. And one of the important things about the videos that we do and the webinars that we do for personal trainers is we can get our webinars accredited by the personal trainer organizations, where the trainers can get continuing education credits for viewing our webinar and taking a short quiz online afterwards. Dietitians can do the same thing. Dietitians can take our webinar courses and get continuing education credits with the American Dietetic Association. So these are important programs for them. Personal trainers really are motivated by who our experts are. They're motivated by the different topics that our experts cover. On the screen, you see two of our experts pictured. The woman on the top, Dr. Corey Wisner, is an expert in the microbiome. And she speaks on gut health. And that's an area of great interest. It's an area of heavy science where there's a lot that people don't know today. There's misinformation being circulated. And personal trainers in particular, and dietitians really want to understand the microbiome better and be able to use that knowledge. Well, Corey is an expert. And so when she speaks on the microbiome, people really want to hear her. And so she's been one of our top experts that has really generated a good audience every time she speaks. Before the pandemic, she spoke several times in person at these personal trainer conferences. But now that we can't do that, these webinars and videos work extremely well. The gentleman pictured on the bottom is a leading author and speaker in the field of endurance athletics, also a competitor. He is well known in the athletic field as an endurance runner and expert on preparing your body for endurance athletics. And so again, when speakers like that are offered, personal trainers are quite interested in being a part of the audience and being able to gather the information that we offer. The 4 webinars that we put on this past year, we had 1,500 people attend. And 94% of those who attended said they would like to join our webinars in the future. So we're providing them with content that they find appealing and interesting, and they certainly want to continue learning from us. And that's our goal, is that we put out high quality information that's useful to them so that they can keep returning to get more information. Then we did a fun project, but it's also going to allow us to do some really good education on the backside of it. We asked personal trainers to participate in an online contest. We wanted them to submit what they eat for breakfast. Now, again, what we're trying to do, everything that we do builds back to one of our strategies. We're trying to overcome the support for fad diets in the personal trainer space. And that support for fad diets was leading personal trainers to recommend very low carbohydrate consumption. Often the keto diet and the paleo diet were the recommendations that personal trainers were giving. Now that we have helped them understand the importance of carbohydrates to provide energy for athletics, as well as just general nutrition, we ask the trainers to submit what they're eating for breakfast into a contest. And of course, we wanted the submissions to be wheat foods. We had over 300 entries that were all really interesting breakfasts that included wheat foods. We chose 3, a first, second, and third place. They received cash prizes. But we now have these hundreds of meals submitted, that our personal trainers own breakfasts. We'll be featuring those in our social media work, in our outreach to trainers, helping them understand, look at what other trainers are eating for breakfast. They're eating wheat foods because it fuels their day, because they know the nutritional importance of eating wheat foods. So a fun contest now becomes an educational tool for us to demonstrate that not only do personal trainers know more about wheat nutrition today, but they're actually eating that way themselves because they now understand its importance. Coming up, a few things that I included to let you know what our work continues to look like. We're going to hold a virtual town hall with 4 of our experts. You've seen the 2 on the bottom previously, Corey Wisner and Brett Carver. On the top, we have Nancy Clark, who is the preeminent athletic dietitian. She has been a consultant to major professional sports teams on their nutrition. She's been a consultant to many Olympic athletes on their nutrition. She has written a book. It's in its 5th edition. Nancy Clark is so well known in the nutrition athletic field. When we feature her as a speaker, we give out copies of her book and have her autograph her book in our booth. We get long lines of people who want to come and say hello to Nancy, chat with her a minute, have her autograph a book for them. It's really an important thing that we do. And so it's wonderful that we have experts like Nancy. The other gentleman in the top, Dr. Glenn Gazer. Glenn is a PhD in exercise physiology. He's one of our really top-notch expert speakers. He has given presentations at almost every personal trainer conference for us. He really understands the field of nutrition athletics and gives excellent presentations. Oftentimes the people stay in the room after his presentation for a very long time asking him questions because his topics are so interesting. And we're also in the process of recording a video series. It's going to be a 5-part video series. We have 2 of the videos recorded that we're in the final stages of editing, but it's a farm to fork video program, starting with how the wheat is grown, taking it through the mill to become flour, through the baking facilities to become wheat foods, and then all the way to the consumer at their home. It's been harder to do this type of work under the restrictions of the pandemic. Travel has been either shut down or difficult. It's been challenging to get the videos that we wanted to get, but we're making progress, and it's getting there. We're excited about it. It's going to be a very useful tool, and one that we think will really give us a lot more views as we continue to educate our target audiences. And then we're going to be doing more work with the chefs at the Culinary Institute. We shifted that to webinars because of the pandemic, rather than being able to do that in person. However, we're hoping to go back to some in-person events in the spring of 2020. But meanwhile, much like with the personal trainers, we have done the events online, where we've recorded them, and we've offered them by link for people to view later. We also publish 2 magazines. They're electronic magazines. We don't print them. One is called Kernels. It's more of a targeted to dietitians in general interest about wheat foods. The other is called Food Fit. It's targeted to personal trainers. We publish 4 issues of each magazine a year. When we produce them, they're distributed by our email network, through our social media, and through our website. And so we allow people to share those, to sign up to receive them. We find them to be the kind of tool that serve us well. People like to read them. They're not extremely long. They're about 10 to 12 pages. Articles are really interesting and not lengthy. So they fit the type of communications that work well online. They're visual, they're relatively short, they move from topic to topic rather quickly, and they're interesting and they're shareable. So those are greatly successful. And then we offer to our network a social media calendar every month. And what I mean by a social media calendar is we have created a post for every day of the month. And when we share that calendar, our offer to everyone who receives it is use these posts on your social media. You don't have to create anything. We have the words written, we have the images created. All you have to do is pick it up and use it. And so we have a great deal of success in our network of people taking our information and distributing it and sharing it. And that's what we're trying to accomplish, is making it easy. We target these, like our magazines, one to a general audience, one to the personal trainer audience. So there's 2 calendars that we put out each month. And so every day of the year, there are posts available. Many of them have links to our video content or to our magazines. And we just find this to be another tool in our toolbox to keep our educational work flowing. And finally, my last slide. I've told you what we're doing, which is the vehicle that we use to do this educational work, to turn around this misinformation, to better inform our audience. And the question that we're often asked, and that we do need to demonstrate, is, well, are we having results? Is this work successful? Well, we have several ways to measure, but on the screen here are 2 of our better metrics. We have the "Are we changing attitudes" graph, which shows 3 colors of bars: orange, yellow, and green. In 2015, when we were looking to determine who our influencer target audience should be, one of the target audiences that we thought would be important to consider was personal trainers. So we did a survey of personal trainers among other target audiences that we were considering. And we asked, what do you know about wheat nutrition? And we had some very specific questions about what they believed were the vitamin contributions, the fiber contributions, the value of carbohydrates, and the benefit overall. And you can see the orange bars were very low numbers. I'll focus on the bar that says carbs. In 2015, only 10% of personal trainers felt that carbohydrates in wheat foods was a nutritional benefit. That meant 90% of personal trainers at that point in time thought they were no benefit to carbohydrates nutritionally, which of course is ridiculous. But that was the belief by personal trainers at the time. The yellow bar, we had a similar survey, same questions in 2019, and the green bar in 2020. And what we're showing here is that before we started educating personal trainers, they had a very low opinion of wheat foods nutrition. They had been heavily influenced by the fad diets. By 2020, 89% of personal trainers told us there was good nutritional value to the carbohydrates in wheat foods. That is a huge change. That is an important change, because now many personal trainers are recommending carbohydrates. They're no longer promoting the low carb fad diets. They're telling their clients, who are retelling almost 50 million people a week, to eat wheat foods because they have carbohydrates that are important nutritional contributions to your body and to your success athletically. And the other chart is one you've already seen, which is the chart of our success in reaching people with our video content, over 9 million views of our videos. That means all this information that we're putting out about wheat nutrition is reaching our target audience. They're consuming it. That type of content is what's leading to the change in their understanding and belief that wheat foods offer nutritional value. I see there's a few questions being asked in the chat. I want to stop my presentation here. I want to switch so that we are able to answer questions. I'll take the slides off the screen. If we have questions where we need to refer back to them, I will put them back up. So Miguel, I think we would be ready for questions anytime that folks are wanting to do that.
Muchísimas gracias, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Before answering the questions proper, you've touched many interesting topics here. We know that all over South America, bread, pasta, and biscuits has increased greatly because of the pandemic. I think a very important question that we've heard through the milling associations in the area is, what can we do in the industry to keep wheat-based foods high? Is this momentum going to be kept right after the pandemics, or will it decrease? What do you think? The other topic that has always drawn my attention personally, because I've worked in the vitamin industry for many years. In South America, it's $10 million is spent in premixes, vitamin mixes, in each one of the countries that have separate policies for that. We know that the labeling in wheat bags and pasta and pastry nutritional fact is informing that, but consumers know very little about nutritional facts involving wheat foods or flour, specifically. In countries with very high wheat-based or wheat food consumptions. For instance, because of the folic acid that is included, the bifid spine cases in Chile decreased from 20 cases per 1,000 to less than 8 per 1,000. And this is due exclusively or is attributed to the use of folic acid. There are many ways to promote the consumption of wheat-based foods, I think. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with you. So the mic is open to whomever wants to ask any questions or make any comments. I see there's a hand here raised. Gabriela and Giovanni, do you have any questions to ask?
Don Miguel Seguel, si es que Gabriela...
Mr. Miguel Celeste, do you have any questions? Yes, you can unmute your microphones and shoot your question.
¿Aló?
Hello, are you there? Claudia, can the attendees unmute their microphones, Claudia? Miguel Seguel. We cannot hear you, Miguel. Can you hear me now? Yes, we can. Hello, good morning. Basically, there are two questions here. How do you see the future and influence of organic foods as a trend? And do you have any studies concerning sprouted kernel products? I think that Tim has heard the question. Have you heard the question, Tim?
Yes, yes, I did. Well, both of those are important trends here in the US. Organic, much more sizable. Organic foods have been growing rapidly. They still are a smaller percentage of the overall total, but the growth has been quite aggressive. I think the pandemic did slow that down a bit. The challenges in the supply chain certainly made organics more difficult. When you were shopping, you were happy to get anything often, rather than being able to pick and choose things like an organic milk, for example. As long as you could get milk, you were happy to get milk. And so people dropped some of their diet preferences during the pandemic. I think, as Miguel said earlier, some of the things that were done during the pandemic, it will be interesting, and everybody in the food business is trying to figure out what will happen on the backside as the pandemic slows down. And what I believe from what I've been able to see and hear and learn, I expect it to be a mixture. Some of the new behaviors will stick, and some will go the wayside when and if life returns to something more normal like it used to be. Here in the US, people were living busy lives and buying convenience products and eating out. Quite often, they shifted to cooking at home. Will they stay at that level of cooking at home? And I think the answer will be that mixture. They'll do more cooking at home, but as life gets busy again, they'll likely go back to some more convenient things. But I do think particularly the organic foods, what people like about organic foods is they've made a choice in how they want to eat. And really, particularly with baking, as we've seen in consumer survey work, often people bake at home. Well, first of all, they enjoy it. It's fun. It's a great family activity. But most important, they want to control their own ingredients that go into what they bake. And they typically don't want things put in their baked goods that they prefer not to eat. And that's where a lot of organic work, people will buy organic flour and other organic ingredients to bake something that's really, in their view, better for them, that is more difficult to buy somewhere else. So I think the trend line on organics is very positive. It's been growing a lot, may have been set back a little bit, but I think it will continue to grow. I think organics are misunderstood, but that doesn't slow it down. Most mothers here, if asked, would prefer to choose organic foods for their children because they think they're better for their children and their family, even though they really don't understand what it means to be organic. If you had to ask them to pass a test on what organic foods really are, they wouldn't be able to do that. The sprouted kernels are a very small niche product. There's interest in those, yet it doesn't represent a big percentage of the market. It's a slice of the more artisan baking that's going on. There's going to be growth there. I think people are interested in that. It's more expensive, which eliminates some people from being able to do it very often just because of their budgets. But I do think it's the kind of thing that for special occasions and for those who are trying, to eat differently and try to eat what they believe to be healthier, it's the type of thing they will try.
Okay. Gracias, Tim. No
Thank
sé
you,
si
Tim.
en específico, y aquí nos lo vuelven a preguntar,
Specifically, they're asking here again.
nosotros hemos visto una tendencia en Estados
We've seen
Unidos,
a trend in the US,
que sucede en Estados Unidos,
and whatever happens in the US or in Europe,
tiende a llegar a América
to some extent,
y es
gets down here in Latin America,
de grano
which is
terminado,
the use of sprouted kernels,
de pan.
especially for bread making.
Tenemos una persona en
There's someone in Chile,
US Week que él está
a dear friend of US Wheat, who's asking
cada vez más en el uso de granos germinados
and trying about the use of sprouted kernels ever more for bread making. He's been making tests
referente a esto. No sé si como
with sprouted kernels.
tienen algún estudio
Do you have any nutritional studies going on
consumo
eventual benefits of sprouted kernels?
We have not done any specific tests on sprouted as a separate category. There might be some bakers who have information, bakers who are specializing in it, but I don't know that. There are a few places you might want to look. There's a company here called Bob's Red Mill. They produce a lot of the specialty grains. You might visit their website and see if they have anything. There's also in the state of Washington, affiliated with Washington State University, is called the Bread Lab. They do a lot of work with ancient grains and other specialty grain products. They may have something about sprouted grains if you look at their website. Those would be the two places I'd recommend. And maybe as I'm thinking here, the third one would be King Arthur Baking Company. They have a lot on their website. And I don't know what they're doing with sprouted grains, but they might be a resource where you could find some information as well.
Excelente, muchas gracias.
Excellent. Thank you very much. An additional question. Thank you. Thank you, Miguel. An additional question that goes like this. How has the food pyramid changed, the recommended food pyramid? And how has this affected the wheat food consumption? Is there a change in this nutritional pyramid?
Yes, the US government convenes the Dietary Guidelines Alliance every 5 years. And they've shifted from the food pyramid to what they call MyPlate. And so if you look at MyPlate, what you see is a picture of a plate, and they divide the plate based on their recommended amount of the different food groups to eat. And so in the last 2 rounds, the grain category has done well. They are recommending a good amount of servings. They're recommending that half of them be from whole grains, which then leaves the other half to be from enriched grains. Enriched grains have had their share of controversy around them. Miguel touched on the added vitamins, particularly when you look at the whole folic acid story, huge success worldwide for dealing with birth defects. Unfortunately, in the media and in comments on social media, what happens with enriched grains is people interpret that to mean bad things have been added, and that enriched grains are nothing more than sugar. And so it was important to us that in the MyPlate dietary guidelines recommendations that enriched grains were included. And so we put a lot of experts together to submit papers, to make testimony, which helped influence and highlight to panel that made these decisions that enriched grains were important and should be included, and that there was a lot of misinformation around them. So you can go find that on the US Department of Agriculture website quite easily. But we're very happy with that. We use it. Dietitians in particular use MyPlate often.
Excelente. Muchísimas gracias, Tim. Muy claro.
Thank you very much, Tim. It was crystal clear. Miguel, someone raised his hand. Mr. Alejandro Lely, please ask your question.
Alex, ¿nos escuchas?
Alex, we can't hear you.
Estás con el micrófono
Your
apagado.
microphone is off. Yes, now we can hear you. Tim, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. Interesting for all of us. You touch upon critical aspects. And from complicated situations, we have opportunities to stress the value of products that may be due to fashion or due to ideology. Alex, your microphone is shut again. Okay, you can see me now, maybe? No, you cannot see me, but you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you. Yes. So I was saying, very often this kind of situations for our industry, and when I say industry, I mean the whole production chain, the wheat producers, the transportation, certification, kernel certification, authorities, the milling industry, the bakers, etc., etc. And so sometimes due to fashion or due to ideology, the consumption of a few products are criticized, and it's our case as well. And so I invite you to think about this. As the pandemic showed that wheat foods play a very important role in terms of the population nutritional requirements, we should think about how we can follow this trend. We can navigate the situation. So our products were affected by restaurants and coffee shops that were closed for months. But at home, when people eat at home, they eat more bread and more food, more wheat foods. When I started working in the food industry, I remember the food pyramid. At the base of this pyramid was wheat, very healthy wheat foods. And today we have a very, let's say, upside down attitude. Thank you, Tim. I'd love to hear your comments about this. Thank you, Alejandro, for your comments. This work was done by the whole food chain. It was not easy, but I think that difficulties are opportunities, and we have to see how we can do the best out of this situation. An additional comment. It's about something I've seen in the US. A few years ago, I worked with someone that participated at a baking contest at the Napa Valley of the US. And I asked why he had participated. And he said it was an event organized by the raisin producers and the Baker Association of California. And they organized a contest for bread containing raisins. At least 40% of the formula should contain raisins. And the bread could be any bread you would wish from. And the three first ones would have as prizes a weekend paid for the winner and his or her family at the Napa Valley, etc. And this baker told me, it's very interesting, this alliance between raisin producers and bread producers, so they can increase the consumption of both products. In Latin America, we could do that. We are large fruit producers. We produce many different plant foods. We could do that. I know that Mr. Pantoja is here, is the president of the Bakers Association in Peru. And I know there are a few initiatives that have worked very well because they incorporated Andean kernels into baked goods. I don't know, Pantoja, if you could say something about that. Tim, could you say something about that?
Certainly. I'll touch on both
Perdón, Pío, no te
topics.
escuchamos.
Ahora sí.
El señor Pío Pantoja va a hacer unos comentarios.
Mr. Pantoja will make a few comments and then you will have the floor back, okay? Yes, now you can hear me. Thank you. Good morning to all of you. Tim's presentation was very important. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Pantoja, the president of Peru Bakers Association, a member of the bread chain. Wheat is one of the oldest food consumed by the humankind. It should be declared as humankind heritage, and we should have the International Bread Year. It's the food that feeds the majority of our population, but it is demonized. It's attacked by a new model or by a few institutions that think they are health rescuers. But in Peru, we believe that bread still is the most important food in Peruvians' daily meals. But our per capita consumption of bread is low. Over the last 7 years, we've increased about 25% our bread per capita consumption due to one action. We established MyPlate. It's an association encompassing the bread production chain with our association and a magazine. We also have the committee. They were working. Well, let's say, what have we done? First of all, we demystified private and public institutions that say bad things about bread. We started by talking about price. We said that bread should be bread price should be freely established by the market, should not be imposed. We have different kind of prices. There are 100% differences between different kinds of breads, and they all sell. And we've added Andean grains to our bread. We aim at helping Andean farmers to smile. Why? Because people buy their products. And even so,
efectivamente ha subido el consumo
the bread consumption has increased. Bread with Andean kernels, but the wheat flour has not decreased, and we are importing more and more wheat flour. I think that this experience, as we've told the Inter-American Bread Confederation, this experience shows us that we in the the wheat food production chain, we have to get together in order to fight this trend. We have demystified a number of affirmations, of statements. The president of our country said that the price of wheat has gone up, and the price of flour will go up, but the bread price will not go up. And this is very harmful for us, bakers. Somebody talked about wheat flour enrichment in Peru. We have 5 micronutrients that we add. In Peru, we are enriching bread or flour with iron, and it's becoming popular. It's enriched with a different micronutrient, with quinoa, whose nutritional value is higher, and all this increases the bread per capita consumption. One mill launched quinoa bread that is also enriched. We increased the consumption of almost 450 kinds of bread. This increases the bread demand in different regions.
Reconocimiento que nunca el Perú, por ejemplo, va a poder autoabastecerse de trigo. Nunca va a poder autoabastecerse, porque reconocemos nuestra deficiencia. Y ya las autoridades han reconocido eso, y están volcándose para poder incorporar otros productos como sucedáneos. Muchas gracias, Tim. Muchas gracias, Miguel, por la invitación y felicitaciones a todos por esta participación. A su disposición.
Muchas gracias, don Pío, por su comentario.
Thank you, Mr. Pio, for your comments. We are aligned here. Just a brief comment. Yeah, the interpreter who's speaking was on the wrong channel and now has corrected that. Thank you. Let's see if we have any further questions here. Tim wanted to make a comment here. Yes.
You want to make a comment?
Well, a lot of good topics have been discussed and a few questions in those comments that I thought I would want to address. You know, Alejandro talked about the fashion and ideology that drives some of these misinformations, these fads. Pio also touched on the same thing. You know, he mentioned that a model would be against bread. I think that's what we've been battling, is that primarily because of weight management, weight loss, carbohydrates have been blamed for weight gain. And so the easiest thing that many of these diets try to do when people want to lose weight is take out carbohydrates. They believe that that's a source of weight loss, and those ideas have stuck. You know, Miguel, you mentioned earlier the Atkins diet being one of the first ones to go down that path. Those diets have become fashionable. They've become ideology, as Alejandro said. They have become ingrained. That's why we chose to target personal trainers. They were recommending the keto diet and the paleo diet often. The reality is, of course, if you talk with people who really understand nutrition and who are, you know, educated experts in the field, taking out one food group is never the answer. Carbohydrates are important. You need to take about 40% of your calories in as carbohydrates. They're the most accessible calories your body can burn. The idea that you lose weight by burning fat is what's behind many of these diets. Your body's not designed to burn fat. You can force it to, but it's very inefficient. Those speakers that we use that are experts can clearly help people like personal trainers understand when you force your body to burn fat, it runs very inefficiently. It doesn't do that well. It wasn't designed to do that. And it isn't the miracle that they expected it to be. What really happens when someone goes on a diet like that is they change their lifestyle. Instead of eating heavily fatted foods and too much of them, they eat fewer calories, they exercise, they cook more often and eat less prepared foods, and as a result, they lose weight. So we've been battling that, and we continue to do that, and we use our experts heavily in overcoming those myths and replacing them with fact and nutrition science.
Muchísimas gracias, Tim.
Thank you so much, Tim. We had a few other comments, and this is something we see as a regional and worldwide trend as far as the consumption of functional bread. There are ingredients, as Pio Pantoja from Peru was saying, that can enrich bread flour, and the work that has to be done with chefs is extremely important, and the whole wheat bread chain has to be aligned. We will continue to support all stakeholders at the regional level in different ways in order to promote the consumption of wheat-based foods or wheat foods in the area, because wheat has been a staple in the healthiest culture worldwide. Mediterranean culture, for example, grew based on wheat consumption. Let's see if there are any other comments or questions for us to continue. Apparently, there are no further comments. I then express my appreciation to everyone for joining us in the session today. This presentation will be recorded. You can play it at 3 languages. Dear Tim, thank you so much for such a great job and for all the initiatives that WFC has taken, as you've explained so brilliantly to us. And you've explained in YouTube channels that the WFC has, there are numerous contents that can be used and used according to each country for you to disseminate it on the social media. And we know that this is going to have a very strong influence on the consumers' taste. Thank you so much, everyone.